Switha, good evening. Croeso i'r Expo Fel Goch, nos Iau ar sesiwn mewn partneriaeth gydag Ymddiriedolaeth Cymdeithas Bêl-droed Cymru. Good evening, welcome to Expo Fel Goch and a Thursday evening session with the FAW Trust. Russell Todd ydi fyny wi, un o'r cyd sylfaenwyr yr Expo, gyda Tim Hartley, sydd fyny hefyd heno. Ac gobeithio bydd y sesiwn yn mynd yn slightly mwy well ac yn haws yn y sesiwn fe a gafodd y pnawn yma. Mae gyda fi, hopefully the session will go a bit easier than his session a little bit earlier, which had some technical glitches, but apologies for anyone who was messed around with that this afternoon. Diolch yn fawr iawn I pawb sydd wedi noddi a chefnogi'r Expo yn ystod yr wythnos hyd yn hyn ar fori ac yn enwedig y Cymdeithas Bêl-droed Cymru a'r Ymddiriedolaeth Cymdeithas Bêl-droed Cymru. Hefyd IndieCube, Sporting Heritage, RTS Cymru Wales, Grow Social Capital and Goal Cymru. Huge thanks to all of those sponsors and others who have supported us in kind and in a practical way as well. Rydyn ni'n sôn heno am y grassroots game, sef y greiddiau game. Mae gennym ni 3 clwb gennym ni heddiw heno ac bydd Daniel o'r Ymddiriedolaeth yn cyflwyno nhw cyn bo hir. We've got 3 clubs from the grassroots of the game with us this evening. I'll leave Daniel to introduce those in due course. Pan fi ddim yn sôn am a Clarbeston am Bêl-droed, datblygu cymunedol, gwaith cymunedol ydy fi'n nghefndir, ac ydy fy ngyrfa. So, fi wedi treulio ers 20 mynydd gan gweithio mewn a gyda chymunedau I helpu'r hunan. My background when I'm not gossiping about football is in community work and community development work, and so I've spent almost, well, it's over now, 20 years in communities and with them, helping them do things for themselves. So this is an issue that's particularly close to my heart, and it's one that's obviously quite acute given the pandemic in the last year. Tipyn bach o housekeeping. Hapus iawn I chi cyfrannu yn y Saesneg neu yn y Gymraeg. Croeso cynnes I chi ddefnyddio y clonc, y panel, y chat, mwyn I adal sylwadau, dolenni, cwestiynau hefyd, bydd cyfle I rhoi cwestiynau I Daniel a gobeithio Aled hefyd o'r Ymddiriedolaeth. Please use the chat in either Welsh or English, any other comments or links that you want to share as well. Hopefully we're going to be joined by Aled as well, I think, from the Trust a little bit later, who can take some questions as well. Hefyd, cyfryngau cymdeithasol, hashnod EWG21, the hashtag is on social media EWG21, ac mae croeso chi ddefnyddio hwn a gadael sylwadau ar hwnna hefyd yn ystod yr awr nesa. Tim, unrhyw beth arall I ddweud?
Na, fi'n credu bod chi wedi cyfro pob dim. Dwi wedi rhoi y Twitter feed fyna yn y clonc, yn y chat. Please feel free to comment. You know, if you don't want to ask a question, that's fine too. We'll pull them all together and give them to Aled and Daniel at the very end. So, diolch I chi.
Yeah, diolch yn ddod. And Daniel, I will hand over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Russell. Evening, everyone. Hope everyone's well. Absolute pleasure to be on the call this evening. And I'm joined by 4 fantastic guests. So I'll introduce them now because I don't want to miss the opportunity. So I'm joined today and those guys will 100% be leading the content and sharing their ideas with you today. So we've got Jonathan from RTB Vale, we've got Steve from Clarbeston Road, and we've got Rodri and Steve from Ammanford. So those guys are going to share with you some of the exceptional work they have been completing during the pandemic and post-pandemic. But before I hand over to those guys individually, I just thought it would be really important to kind of set the scene, give you a little bit of an insight into who I am and my role. More importantly, the role of the FAW Trust, and to just give you a bit of an overview of where football was pre-pandemic and where we hopefully see ourselves post-pandemic. So I am the Club Services Manager at the FAW Trust. I've been in post now for around 7-8 months, and predominantly my role is to support grassroots clubs. That's with support in and around on-field topics, which might be coach development and helping direct coaches to the right education and the pathway that we've set within the FAW Trust. And then it goes completely the opposite end to kind of off-field support, which might be around governance, legal structures, finances, etc. So it's my responsibility to look at the services and support that we can align with grassroots clubs to really help them thrive and, more importantly, sustain, which is obviously a key factor in the last kind of 12 to 18 months that we've all kind of faced. Just a little bit about the FAW Trust. So we are a charitable arm from the FAW, and the charity was formed in 1996. And the key responsibility that was originally proposed in 96 and remains present now is to really protect the grassroots game and to help it grow, help it flourish, and ensure that we're doing everything in our power to raise the standards within the game. And our mission really is to ensure that football is for everyone in Wales, and that includes from those just beginning their journey, from under 5s, under 6s, all the way to adults, women and men experiencing the game for many years to come through kind of walking football initiatives, etc. And we're going to be leading and releasing our new strategy that will take us through to season 24-25. And again, have a real clear focus on how we continue to progress and develop and support our grassroots football family. And underpinned by our values that some of you may already be aware of, that are respect, family and excellence. So prior to COVID, football in Wales was strong, it was looking good, and it still does now, but the numbers were fantastic. We had over 900 grassroots, or 900 clubs, 500 of which provide junior football, which is obviously fantastic and where the real growth and appetite for the game begins. Huge participation within kind of the male game, as it were, from minis, junior, youth, all the way through to adults. So just over 33,000 men, boys play the game, and just over 1,700 players with a disability or impairment have the opportunity, quite rightly, to enjoy the game and experience what else the game can bring. And yourselves on the call today and the key people that I'm joined with are volunteers, and we have over 33,000 volunteers. That's coaches, that's officials, that's committee members, and that's a huge network, an absolutely huge network that do incredible things. And those guys are going to tell you about what they've been doing over the last 12 months. And that does include things such as supporting during the pandemic, and that's where this whole concept, this conference is come from, by the fans, for the fans, the community engagement, and clubs have gone above and beyond during these exceptionally challenging times, from raising funds to just keep themselves afloat to going above and beyond and supporting NHS heroes, carers, key workers through donations, parcels, Easter egg drop-offs. There's all sorts been going on, and it's absolute credit to the football family to be able to do that and support outside of the game, as it were. We've also had some fantastic support from Welsh Government through Sport Wales, and there's been £1.2 million that's been invested in the game just to help the sport not fall into a trap of kind of decline, which would be challenging to get out of. So the government, through Sport Wales, is invested that money to ensure that we first and foremost protect our clubs, ensure that they have the right financial foundations to be able to continue once we have kind of seen ourselves out of the pandemic. And they've also invested through a secondary fund called Progress, so that element where clubs can begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully have been able to align some funds that will enable them to continue to progress in the way they were prior to COVID hitting. The landscape now, we're hoping to see the numbers that I referred to previously coming back around, and we're in the start of the affiliation season, so lots of volunteers exceptionally busy at the moment, ensuring their clubs are ready to play the game, the children are ready to play, but we're hoping the numbers will certainly match where we kind of left off. I think it's really important before I introduce the four guests, just to kind of echo on behalf of the FAW Trust and the FAW our thanks to all of the grassroots clubs, the volunteers, the members that are aligned to the clubs for all their outstanding work over the past 18 months. It's been exceptionally challenging, both personally, professionally, and within kind of the football landscape. But what football's done is shown that it's more than just a sport, and that the community element to football really does sit at the heart of all of our clubs, and that will come out through the conversations today. So our topic, as you would have seen through Sign Up, is all around supporting communities through a pandemic and how Welsh football clubs have played a key role in supporting their local community over the past 12 months. So it's an honour to have the four guys on the call with us today, and I'm going to start by introducing Steve Brown from Clarbeston Road, who's going to talk about what him and the club have been doing over the past 12 months. So Steve, over to you.
Hi Danielle, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? And good evening everyone. Okay. Where would you like me to start? I can just introduce who we are and where we are, if that helps.
Yeah, Steve, that would be really useful. If you could give the guys on the call a bit of an idea of where you are, what you do, what opportunities you provide, and let us know what key people you have around you, because that's exceptionally important.
Right, yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, we're based on a very small village in the centre of Pembrokeshire, and we've been in existence for 60 years now. We were formed in 1961, so the season of 2020 to 2021 was our 60th anniversary season, and I don't think we ever anticipated that you know, we wouldn't be able to celebrate that in the way we planned. But that's you know, that's given us some other opportunities as well. But yeah, we started off as a small club, and we've grown enormously really over the last 20 years or so. We've now got 15 teams. Just under 300 playing members and 50 or 60 volunteers that you know, enable all that to happen really, which is greater than the population of the village that we're based in. The village is a centre for a much larger dispersed area of particularly sort of northeast Pembrokeshire, and the village is a central village for a cluster of other villages. So we pull on a very large dispersed catchment really. But we're of disproportionate size for the village that hosts us. And because of that, we tend to be one of the main organisations for delivering community events, social events in particular, but we host other community organisations in the village. And we do quite a lot of charitable fundraising for other local charities. We're a charity ourselves, but we raise money for other local charities through annual tournaments and fundraising events and so on. So we're deeply embedded within our community. We've got link agreements with the local primary schools. We have quite a lot of young people coming through as volunteers working with us, and that helps them in terms of their progression through education and beyond. You know, we work a lot with local businesses, and in return they give us sponsorship support as well. So you know, we're well embedded in the community. We've got, we're a multi-generational club. We've got children playing today whose grandparents played for us a couple of generations ago. So you know, there's a deep history to the club and lots of connections in the community. So it came as a real blow when, you know, the footballing activities all had to stop at the start of the pandemic. And obviously everybody was focused on other priorities, understandably. But it's quite difficult. Obviously kids were cut off from their friends and their activities, and this was the same across the whole country, of course. And that was very hard for people. It was very hard for families, particularly with homeschooling and so on, and no outlet for the kids to go and play with their friends and so on. So you know, we've done what we could around the edges to try and support that. I think it's changed a number of things for us. We've really upped our game in terms of our communication with our members and our coaches and volunteers. And like everybody else, like we are now using video conferencing, Zoom, and increasing our communication through MailChimp and through other social media outlets, and in particular Facebook. Because it was our 60th anniversary year, we were able to share lots of our history over a number of months to keep people connected with the club, to keep people interested in football and the history of football locally. And that was very successful. People were very switched on to that and enjoyed, I think, seeing some of what's happened in the past, and diverted them from some of the perhaps less pleasant current news and so on. But our senior players early on in the pandemic, it was right at the peak, the difficult first phase when everything was pretty bleak. Along with lots of other clubs and organisations, are very keen to do something to express their support for the NHS and other support workers. And because it was our 60th anniversary year, they decided that they would run collectively 60 miles a day for 19 days because of COVID, being COVID-19. So we had this period of about 3 weeks where every day they were doing runs, raising money through sponsorship, and we were posting stories every evening of the various amusing stories that came out of that programme, and that was really helpful for them, and for us as well, and the community. I think it gave us something a little bit more pleasant and humorous to focus on at a really difficult time, and that raised £4,000, half of which went to the NHS directly, the local hospital, and the other half the players wanted to go to the club, because at that time we thought we faced a pretty uncertain financial future. Subsequently, of course, we've had support from Sport Wales through the Be Active programme, and because we were registered for business rates, we were able to get some of the Welsh Government grants as well, and that gave us some good financial security. And despite COVID, despite the lockdown, we were able to progress with some quite ambitious development plans as well during the year, although they became more expensive and they took longer to deliver. We've been able to improve our facilities along the way, and we invested quite a lot of money during the summer to improve our car parking and prepare for the next phase of our development, which hopefully will be a new changing room building. So that, in some ways there was some good news that came out of it as well. Because we were able to improve the car parking, it has now facilitated a lot of cars being able to park around the perimeter of our junior and mini pitch, which has enabled the parents to watch a lot of the training now they're back in training, because they can't enter the playing area. They stay in their cars, but they can still see their kids play, which is great. One of the big dividends, I think, of COVID, we were fearful that quite a lot of players would get disconnected with football and would lose interest, and we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing that they're all back, they're all keen to be back, and we're going to support them with as much football as they want to play over the summer months. But we're also seeing a surge in new membership, new interest as well. And when the registration period opens next week, I think our membership's going to grow by about 10%. Which is quite incredible, really, and that's before we start actively recruiting through the recruitment days and so on. So we're really pleased with that, and I think it just shows how much people are really keen to get back to normality and exercise and so on, and particularly at the younger age groups as well. We're getting lots of interest at 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and girls football as well, which is great, because we've been really pushing girls football very hard for a long time, and we've now got to the point where we think we've got the critical mass for 3 teams next season, which would be great. Perhaps the one difficult frustration for us is that we've got a disability group, and they've not been able to get back before now. Many of them have been shielding, some live in care settings, so it's been really hard for them to get back. But we're hoping they'll come back from later this month on a phased basis. Now that the numbers are going in the right direction, hopefully it'll be secure enough for them to come back. So it's been an interesting 12 months. I think we've learned quite a lot that we'll be able to take forward longer term, in terms of particularly improved communications with our members, but also it's opened our eyes to some opportunities about how we might be able to organise ourselves, and how we might be able to engage better with some of the community groups that we've had to disconnect from over the last 12 months. So we're very keen to get back into our social programme with them and hosting events and get them back enjoying the interaction and helping to facilitate that. And
I've just got a quick question.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, Steve, I've just got a quick question, which I think would be important for the audience to know if obviously there's an answer behind it. So your senior team done the kind of 60-19, as it were, raised a significant amount of money, which is absolutely fantastic. Did you guys see any additional benefits that came through that? Do you think the club awareness was raised at all? Was there any kind of connections with local businesses because they could see what incredible work you were doing? Was there anything that came off the back of that was secondary to the finances?
But yeah, I think it's a piece of a bigger jigsaw, really. And I think a lot about running a successful club is about reputation, and you have to work hard to get a good reputation, and you can lose it very quickly if you don't get things right. And we've put a lot of effort into making sure that we do things right, and that's reflected in our platinum accreditation, thankfully. And we do set high standards, and I think people relate to us because of that. And I think it's given us an opportunity to sort of tell people what we do. We've had lots of really good feedback, particularly from that initiative. Had some very generous sponsors from the community and from businesses, and we've picked up new business sponsors during the year as well. We've got 30 business sponsors altogether now, and we picked up 5 during the pandemic. So even though a lot was shut down, there was still a lot going on behind the scenes, and we're very grateful for the support we get. We get fantastic support from the community, and we couldn't do it without them, and particularly our volunteers who've been they've had to work really hard to to get back and follow the protocols and keep connected with their members. And they've all done individual things separately to keep connected. So it's a big jigsaw that lots of people contribute to, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to kind of pull you back, Steve, to the point you made around kind of the community engagement. And I know we spoke prior to this, and you mentioned around that social calendar. Are you able just to elaborate for the audience what it is you do within your local community that's kind of spearheaded by the football club?
We hold a number of events. Many of them are fundraising events, but we don't charge a membership to our members at all. They don't. Football is free. We charge a training fee to cover the cost of hiring facilities and so on during the winter months, and that covers the higher costs and some of our pitch maintenance costs. But most of our income is from sponsorship and fundraising, and so we hold a comedy evening. We get a bunch of comedians they tend to come from across the country, actually, in the autumn. We have Christmas bingo events that seem to attract a different age group. We've got football fun days during the summer months. We have sponsored events, sponsored walks, and so on. There's a whole range of things that we do that other members of the community join into. In fact, very often, we get people from a much wider area. So that becomes an important part of the social calendar. And we host village events as well. We host the village carnival, we host a sports day, and other organisations use our facilities. Dyfed Powys Police have played their home games on our pitches in the last playing season. We've got 6 police officers amongst our volunteer and playing force, so that's quite helpful. But it makes those links to other organisations, and the Young Farmers Club, for example, they've used our facilities in the past, and in turn, all these people have helped support us when we've gone for funding applications and so on. So, it's a two-way street, really.
It really is, and I think when we talk about community engagement, that kind of strap line there, Steve, that you've said about two-way, it is 100% spot on. It has to be two-way, and I think what you've done as a club is absolutely fantastic. You're using football as the heart of kind of collaborating and connecting your local village members together, not just through football, but football sits at the heart of that, and I think that's really important, especially after the last kind of 12 to 18 months that we've all kind of been through. One question that I'm going to ask everyone on the call this evening, not planned, so apologies. So I'll give you a little bit of time to think if needed. But what's been one of the kind of biggest learnings that you've taken from COVID, and how will you look to implement that in your kind of club environment?
I guess it's communication. I guess we've realised that we perhaps haven't engaged enough directly with our volunteers as a group. We see lots of them individually, but I think we've now given them a much better platform on which they can help influence the way the club's run. We've set up we've had Zoom calls with them. We've never done anything like that before. It's hard to pull people into face-to-face meetings when they're so busy with other things in their lives as well as football coaching. So, the odd Zoom call to pick their brains on how to do things and clear up any issues. They've been really good. We've got a WhatsApp group with them now, which we didn't have before. So I think keeping everybody in the loop and enabling our volunteers to help influence the way the club runs. It's not just down to a group of very keen and hardworking trustees. Everybody has a say and can contribute really, for the best interests of the club and hopefully make it a great experience for the players.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Steve. That's a really good reflection. And before I move on, Steve, I've just realised that we haven't shown the two pictures that you shared. Would you like me to get them up so you can talk through them? Yeah,
if you could. Yeah, there's one just showing our group of a group of our senior players. It's not all of them. It's a subset of them who did the fundraiser for the NHS. And
yeah, I'll get that up.
It's a picture we took that the NHS used, I think, in their publicity. I think you've got that one.
Yeah, bear with me. I think it's really nice for the guys to see that. Can you see that, Steve?
Yeah, I can see it. I hope everybody else can.
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, they're sat on the seating overlooking our main pitch, and yeah, that was just after they'd finished the event, so that was still, in the aftermath of the first wave. Really, it was a difficult time. So they're all hopefully socially distanced there.
It looks like it, Steve. It looks like it.
And then the other picture is one that we took this afternoon, just to show you our the ground that we own and we're developing. So that's our main pitch with our junior mini pitch, training pitch above it, and the new car parking at the back. And we've invested about £200,000 in that site over the last 3 years, and we've got probably about the same to come again to develop changing rooms and so on. And there's a porta cabin now on the left, which is giving us a temporary changing rooms and a base there, which was donated to us by the NHS, actually, the day before lockdown. We managed to retrieve that from Cardigan Health Centre. It's an NHS practice that we're moving into the new hospital there, and they donated their porta cabin to us. So we managed to squeak it into the site just before we were stopped from doing anything. So there we are, just to give some context as to our setting, really.
Brilliant, thanks, Steve. Exceptionally insightful. And again, just want to echo kind of a huge thanks to you, the trustees, and all your volunteers that form part of your club and the wider community for what you've done over the last 12 months, and I know you'll continue to do so. A big thank you, and thank you for presenting this evening.
Thanks, Danielle.
Great stuff. So next up, we've got Jonathan from RTB at Vale. So Jonathan, if you'd like to unmute yourself. Let me know if you'd like to share the screen now, or whether you'd like to share it a little bit later on. It's completely up to you.
Okay, I'll do a little bit of an introduction about the club, and then perhaps if you could just share the screen for me, that'd be lovely. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm chairman of the junior section of RTB Ebbw. Our club have been running since 1951, so similar to Steve's, similar time span. We have had our ups and downs. We are in Blaen y Gwent, so we are surrounded by quite a number of quite strong football clubs, really, with regard to Tredigga, play Welsh League football, and Abdeleri, both sides of Abdeleri now play Welsh League football. And our senior team have been in the Gwen County for the last 20 years since dropping out of the Welsh League. So although we've strived to build the club up and improve and get to the Welsh League pyramid system, it's been difficult. We've had our ups and downs. We have had times where we've only had one senior team and no junior section. And then we've had times where, excuse me, I got a frog. We've had times where we are growing and our numbers seem to be good. We have worked exceptionally hard. We have a good working committee, both for senior section and junior section, that works hard for the club and the children in the area. And like I said, the competition is very strong. But with the volunteers that we have, we seem to be going in the right direction. COVID hit us just the same as it did everybody else, really hard. So it was a very difficult time, and we were concerned how we were going to keep in contact with all our members, because I think pre-COVID, nobody really knew what Zoom calls were or team meetings were, and you know, and we've all learned as we've gone along, basically. So we all, probably driven by the senior section at times, we engaged in the sort of loo roll challenges and the keep you up challenges, and you know, our first team manager put on a few Zoom training sessions for our juniors to get involved with, indoors and in the garden, using socks and cans and tins and anything that was at hand, basically. And then we probably got to Easter, I think, was the first major event. What we normally do with our juniors is we usually buy each of our children an Easter egg. It's just a gift from the club, basically. And I think it was one of our junior players said that they would like to donate their Easter egg to somebody from the NHS, which the idea sort of blossomed and changed, and we developed that, and we purchased the same amount of eggs that we normally would for our junior section, but delivered those then to local hospitals for the NHS. So it was just a little thank you, basically, at the time where we were in the height of the pandemic. This then created a theme, I suppose, where we thought that we needed to do more within our community. And I'm not saying that that was just us as a club, but it was something that probably we haven't done before, perhaps slightly different to Steve. When Steve described his club, we've always felt a little bit that we were looking for sponsors to invest in us, if that made sense. So this was a bit of a turnaround and a changing point for us as a club, really. So then we did a series of scratch cards, and we held a raffle. And like I said, a lot of this was driven by our senior section, who were fantastic throughout and well supported throughout. But of course, we've got the numbers within the junior section to help support this. So then we, I'm just checking my notes, then we did fundraising for different charities. We decided on purchasing new kit. We thought that perhaps that would help the children get through perhaps what was a difficult time, so give them something to look forward to. So we put it out to our members, much the same as Steve has already said, through Zoom meetings and stuff and get-togethers. We decided on Mind Cymru as a charity of our choice. So we did a few fundraisers for them, a raffle, and we've also put they sponsor their name, sorry, on all our kits for our junior section. So we've given them a little bit of a free advertising, if you like, throughout the club. We've also run different competitions within the club through like Halloween costumes. We went through the summer. I might be skipping ahead slightly there, but I think originally our senior team were going to go on tour, so they came up with an idea of asking everybody to cycle or walk or run the distance between Ebbw and Benidorm, which is where they were headed. So everybody took part, juniors, seniors, parents, supporters alike. We shared a lot of this and a lot of our activity on social media. Our media guy is very good, very switched on. So we do get a lot of stuff out there, a lot of social media traffic, if you like. And it just became a way of involving everybody within the club, even though we could only get out for an hour's walk at the time or wherever. So what we did, Dan, can you share the screen for me? Will that be okay, please? So we felt that it became important for us then to contribute to what was going on. It wasn't just about us raising funds for ourselves. It was about us developing a connection, I suppose, within the community. So some of the images you can see now on the screen are basically we run competitions at Halloween, so we still ask the children to dress up as they normally would have. They would have dressed up to come to football at some point or at a Halloween party, and what they did was we just gave a prize out to them, and most of them got involved. So we put a montage together of Halloween costumes. Like I said, we donated raffle prizes to raise money, and we sent money to Mewn Cymru and also other local charities. We also then did a festive food bank appeal, which again was driven by one of the senior players, to be fair, and we asked every junior member if they could just bring a tin to training. I think it was when one of the lockdowns were lifted, or just before the fire break, and we created a huge amount of food that we could deliver to the Trussell Trust and the local food bank within the local area. We felt that it was really important to at least try to do something every sort of 3 to 4 weeks. Obviously the children within our junior section were missing a lot of interaction with other children through their training and through matches. So we felt that by doing this and we were posting things on social media for them, that at least they had something to look forward to. It kept them focused. It kept them with regards to their fitness. We did fitness programs online through the club, training sessions, like I said. We delivered a lot of food parcels as well to the care homes. So we collected different toiletries and foodstuffs that were needed to that we heard there was shortage of in care homes. So many of our age groups, or all of our age groups plus the senior section, put together little sort of hampers, if you like, and took them. We collated where we were going to deliver them to, so that we didn't sort of double up, and we took hampers to different parts of the community. So we travelled around and delivered on behalf of RTB Vale Football Club. I'm looking at the little Halloween dressing up image there. We also had volunteers to deliver. Normally we do a trick or treat. So we have chocolates or treats for the children when they turn up training. Unfortunately, they couldn't train during Halloween or have parties or wherever this year, or last year, I should say. So we delivered treats to them. So rather than them coming out to us, we delivered a little box of chocolates to each of our players, just to let them know that we were still thinking of them. They were still important to us, you know, and they were still part of our club. And I think that was really important. We jumped on the sort of bandwagon. I suppose the thank you to the NHS t-shirts were widespread during the pandemic, but we charged a little bit more for them with regard. We worked in conjunction with Macron in Ebbw, and we charged a little bit more for them, and then passed that on to a local charity. So we raised a little bit of money through the t-shirts. We also, on the left-hand side of my screen, you can see the food parcels and the toiletries that we put together for the care homes and delivered to the care homes. With regard to our profile, I believe that, like Steve has said, I think perhaps every cloud in a way has a silver lining, and you know, for us as a club, we always thought that the sponsors were there to sort of help fund us and help us develop as a football club. And in a way, I suppose it felt as though the town owed us a little bit of something. And what we've learned, I think anyway, certainly from a junior point of view, but I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the whole club, is that we've given out lots of things through the pandemic. We've given a lot of our time, and we've delivered to a lot of people that needed it more than we did. You know, as we get lost sometimes a little bit that our football club is the be all and end all, and we need funding for this or goals or kit or equipment or whatever it might be, and there was something much bigger going on, but that has been repaid, I think, since the restrictions have been lifted. Our numbers have grown. Our senior team has gone from 2 senior teams to 3 senior teams, even though they couldn't train. We've had a heck of a lot more interest because of our social media exposure, I believe, and because of how we've engaged with the community. Our junior numbers have increased massively, and the requests to join the club have grown, and that's without the recruitment days that we have coming up, and the fun football sessions that we're hoping to put, or that we're going to put on now during the European Championships. So I think the lesson that we've learned as a football club through difficult circumstances and difficult times is you get more by giving things to other people and to other people within the community, and that's certainly something that we will take on board and take forward. As a junior club, we're now taking on a community asset transfer of a new facility. Well, it's not a new facility, it's an old facility that needs renovating and doing up, etc. But it will allow us as a junior section to grow, which we didn't have room for previously. We thought we were going to lose sponsors because people who sponsored our junior club and our seniors told us that they were in a precarious position prior, or not prior to COVID, but during the early parts of COVID. It seems as though that hasn't happened. Thankfully, the businesses that have supported us in the past continue to do so. And also we've just recently have contact from people are becoming more responsive to us because of what we've been involved with in the community. And we've had new sponsor recently just contact me this week, actually, a new company coming into the town wants to be involved because they like our holistic approach is what they've stated. So I think that has taught us a massive lesson on how we need to move forward, not just us as a football club, but football clubs in general within the community. I think
Jonathan, I'm just going to jump in there. I'm just conscious of time, so we can get the
sorry.
No problems whatsoever. Please don't apologise. And I think it's really important that you've already kind of answered my one question. I'm going to go across all kind of clubs with is one of the takeaways, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the takeaways for you in the club and something you'll kind of do more moving forward is kind of that ethos is you get more by giving more. And I think that's been really clear in kind of the number of initiatives you and the club have been involved with, but actually you're now seeping the benefits of that kind of kind will and gesture through sponsors, through them seeing kind of what you've done as a club in times of difficulty where you've struggled yourself financially and as individuals and as members, but they've seen past that, you've seen past that, and you've done bigger, greater things. And I think that's a real key takeaway. I think what's really positive that both yourself and Steve and Jonathan have both kind of elaborated on is your growth in numbers. I think that's really important for not only the game in Wales, but also the mental and physical health of Welsh people. The more we can get young, old, whoever, everyone involved in the game, then that not only helps with that wider community cohesion, not only helps grow the game, but it helps individual and community well-being. And I think that's really important. And one thing I absolutely love that you've both elaborated on again is that kind of junior and senior connectivity. Although you might not always kind of see each other because of crossover in training or might be in a different facility, the fact that both clubs have got that good connection is fantastic. So again, Jonathan, thank you ever so much for presenting this evening. Thank you for what you've done as a club and leading the club through all of the initiatives, keeping the members engaged and through your extensive work in the community. So a big thank you from us at the FAW and FAW Trust.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So guys, on the call, we have our last two guests, and that is Rhodri and Steve. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, what you do, what club you're from, and what fantastic stuff you guys have been doing over the past 12 to 18 months. So Rhodri, Steve, over to you. Good
evening. Thank you for everyone so far speaking. So I'm Rhodri Jones, the Vice Chairman of Ammanford Football Club. We're a club in sort of Carmarthenshire in South Wales. At the moment, we've got near 350 members. Based on a junior section, which is a platinum accredited section because we've run teams from under 6 all the way to under 16s. And also then a senior section who are quite successful. We've got 3 senior side as well as a youth side, pan disability, ladies and vets at the moment as well. So we've seen its growth over the last few years. Basically in 2018, we joined the FAW More Than the Club initiative. And it sort of gave us the sort of kick on the backside that we needed really to sort of get going, get involved with the community and start sort of branching out a bit more. We managed to raise a lot of funds to improve the ground facilities. We basically went from having a tin shed to sort of a 250-seater stand and floodlights, sort of ground now meets criteria. And as a result of that, we've sort of seen a lot more support within the community itself. To the extent that we managed to have 1,200 supporters watch us against Carnarvon only January last year, just before the pandemic came in. As the pandemic did hit, obviously it brought an end to the football. We decided to keep the football going by running a Welsh FIFA tournament, where over 100 clubs were involved across Wales. And again, we raised money for the NHS and local food banks. We're quite lucky to have that broadcasted on television as well with S4C. And as well as that, we did sort of running challenges to raise money for local food banks. We also had our committee members deliver prescriptions to the vulnerable who were shielded at the time as well. So we basically wanted to give things back to the community. Being a teacher myself, we decided to create a sort of school learning pack that went out to local schools and the community too, just to make sure we sort of catered for all ages basically. But our main focus over the last 12 to 18 months really has been what's called the Jack Lewis Foundation, which is a foundation we've set up now based upon a former player of ours who passed away a couple of years ago. So I'm going to hand over to Stephen now, who's part of the foundation, and we'll talk a little bit more about that element.
Hi all. Yes, so I guess I think it was November 2019 when we first developed the Jack Lewis Foundation, and as Roddy just pointed out, it was generated through a need really that manifested itself through mental health in young people. Predominantly, I suppose, from our perspective, it had come from a very traumatic incident within our club when one of our players took his own life, unfortunately. And from that, obviously, we thought we needed to do something to support, because there clearly wasn't enough support out there within the community, within the official routes through surgeries and so forth. The waiting list for mental health and so forth. He did actually cry for help through that process, but didn't necessarily get the help they needed and in a timely way. I don't know, I suppose many people who are affected will know that the length of time that you need to sort of wait basically for support is quite elongated, and therefore we thought we need to plug the gap and try and support our community where it comes to mental health, and in particular a young community as well, which is our main focus. Well, that was certainly that's what our intention was at the time. It doesn't quite transpire that way because I think we're helping everybody, but if anybody needs help, then clearly we're here to do that. So yeah, we formed a group of trustees, headed by majority of them from the football club, but we also introduced one or two from other organisations within our community, cricket club, Jack's dad as well was a key member of the group, and as you can imagine, quite an emotive one. And the other element is the construction sector. So we have business people from the construction sector, because the biggest killer in the construction industry is related to mental health. So, that was a key factor for us in introducing some support from that sector as well. And as it was, they two biggest sponsors from the club and have been historically for some time. So we started off with one employee, part-time employee, and we fundraised to support that salary through a number of different events that have been run from the football club. Running being one of them, climbing Penavan, shaving heads and so forth. So there's a lot of activities that we did to try and raise that, and also some support from businesses as well and individuals. So the organisation has obviously clearly grown, and it's grown partly out of, I guess it would, from a standing start, you would expect it to grow, but partly as well down to the pandemic, and as one would expect, the pandemic has given its own challenges to many people within our community, and we now are at a point where we're supporting kids as old as just 6. And up right up to the age of 83. So that's the sort of scope of people that the organisation supports. And there are such a number of vast ranging issues that people have, as you can imagine, self-harm being one of the big ones, social inclusion, is an ever-growing one, and that's part and parcel of partly down to the pandemic. So people have been indoors for so long and haven't been used to social contact and haven't had it, and now find that difficult. So there's sort of that's supported through the organisation. Home abuse is another one, and also bereavement, and there are a number of others, but those are the sort of top 4 in terms of what we see. So we're now at a point where we're supporting 195 people within our community, within the SA1 region, that we offer support. We've got now 2 employed people and 16 volunteers. And this is all done through a volunteer organisation. So we get fundraising, we fundraise ourselves, mostly generated through the club or people associated to it. And then we do get referrals now from the GP surgeries, and we get some funding through that portal as well, because clearly they can see of the work that we do, and we taking off the pressure from the GP surgeries as well. So that's our sort of been our main focus. Clearly, there's a stigma around mental health, and always has been, in particular, particularly in young people. So we're trying to raise awareness around that, and basically just give the message that it's okay not to be okay. That's our sort of mantra, I feel like. I'm trying to get people to understand that. And our visibility as an organisation is key to that. We were, just before lockdown, we had our badge actually displayed on the Swansea City shirts that for an FA Cup game in Watford. So, and obviously there's a lot of PR around that, which is great because it's good for the foundation and it's good for the stigma around mental health. And the more we do along those lines, the better. Part of that then, I guess, the next big project for us was to try and create a home for the foundation. So we've been busy during lockdown trying to create some sort of what we can sort of, I suppose, classify as a community drop-in centre. So the idea behind that is to have a facility where we can mentor and mediate the individuals and also accommodate group sessions. That on a preventative basis, so people have got a place to come to have a chat with people in groups or individually if they wish to, if they choose to do so within the counselling section, within the counselling, I suppose, professionals. So, and what part of that, we're going to encourage old age to come in to use the facility, residents within the local community that surround our ground, and all sorts of community groups that would help the preventative element of mental health. Part of one of the projects we're going to do is we're going to create a garden, a wellbeing garden, that's within the confines of our ground. We're hoping to get permission to do that shortly, and again that's something that people can come into and have a moment where they, I guess, that can support their well-being. So we started about 1.5 years ago now in terms of sort of developing the facility. We managed to obtain a building. It was an old classroom basically from the local school. And the football club pledged a significant amount of money to sort of start the process off and getting things underway. And then a lot of local businesses have supported us in terms of then refurbing the building. And we know we're not at completion stage yet. We still got some issues with utilities and so forth. But in general, infrastructure part of the building is almost complete. We've probably got a building that's worth now £80,000 or on the north side of that. And we would hope by the end of the summer, early autumn, we'll have it complete. So that we can obviously facilitate more of the preventative measures that this organisation will bring. And it's key because we see it as I'm a trustee on the Jack Lewis Foundation and involved in the football club as well. And as Rod's pointed out earlier, the reality is, and many of your other two guys as well, who are obviously doing great work. The key thing for us, I think we see it as a duty. Clubs these days have always probably provided for the community, but I think we see it more as a growing duty now. that we are the biggest organisation, apart from the school, we're the biggest organisation in our town in terms of the number of people involved. And therefore, you know, we have got the power to help. And I think that's a key message for us. We feel better by trying to help. I'm sure individuals do, the club does, and the community benefits from it. So I think we have the power and therefore, and the duty as well, in my view. Okay.
I think just to finish off, I know I'm conscious of time, you know, talking about what we could take away, I think the main message we got going back to sort of Sven's more than a club meeting sort of 3 years ago was to be visible in the community. And although it didn't sort of start out as our goal to sort of have the support back, we just wanted to give to the community. And luckily we've got such a wonderful town here in Ammanford who are very passionate about this sport. They've just given us that support as a result of it. So for us being visible, whether it's through social media, as the guys alluded to earlier, or whether it's just us getting out there, you know, and the Jack Lewis Foundation has happened as a result of that, you know, not positively, definitely not, but, you know, it has brought the community together better. So be visible in the community and get out there, really.
Guys, both, a huge thank you first and foremost. Exceptionally inspiring in terms of what you're doing outside of football, but using football as that avenue, and for obvious reasons. I think someone mentioned in the chat, and I even popped down the number of people that you're supporting, helping, guiding, I think is incredible, but also incredibly sad at the same time, because of where we find ourselves. But it's fantastic that you guys have been able to set up a foundation that will support the local people and ensure that they do get the right help when needed to hopefully prevent kind of future occurrences that obviously Jack sadly kind of felt that he needed to go down. I think the social prescribing element, the way you're working with the GP and the NHS is absolutely brilliant, and we'll just add another bow to your string, as it were, and I think that's incredible. And again, huge thank you from everyone here at the FAW Trust for the outstanding work you do. Not only are you running a football club and providing that activity for a huge number of participants, you're also then supporting them and the community through your foundation. So a huge thank you, and thank you both for your time this evening. I think it's good to wrap up to those on the call, and thank you for staying that little bit longer. We do appreciate that. I think what's been clear through all three clubs and the 4 guest speakers this evening is that community engagement is key. Communication with the community is paramount. Being able to give as well as receive really opens the doors and avenues to wider connections and collaboration with businesses, organisations within the community. And as Rodri just said there, and great to finish off, that visibility is huge. And like I say, huge thank you to those that have joined us this evening, and thank you all for having us from the FAW Trust and the Grassroots Football family. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle. We have overrun a little bit, but we've had a couple of questions, comments and observations. I'll hand over to Tim if he's still around to facilitate those. But yeah, we're happy to carry on, but we appreciate if people do need to get away of an evening, that's fine. And just want to say thank you personally to the speakers tonight. All incredibly powerful, and just reminds me what I've been talking about for 20 odd years about, you know, the power of community, and there's not a huge amount that can beat it, to be perfectly honest. So all credit to them, and all continued power to them and their ventures.
I've been quite inspired by what we've heard tonight, to be honest with you. And I put in the chat there that, you know, we've got 3 outstanding case studies of what a football club can and should actually mean. I mean, the question's been raised by David Collins, and I raised it as well earlier. What more can we do to push this? Does there need to be more training provided for clubs in terms of volunteering and engagement? I know there are sessions which the Trust runs, but, you know, is it people doing it for themselves, or are there tools we need to offer people to try to help them?
Yeah, I think it's a two-part approach, and I think Alid will certainly jump in here because I know he's doing some work on this. But I think it's a two-part approach. I think we need to be able to provide the right tools for clubs to be able to support internally, but we also need to make sure that we are connecting with the right charities, the right organisations that can help us deliver the right messages to clubs, who then can deliver the right messages within local communities. But I think, Tim, it's probably flipping it on its head as well and helping clubs work with local charities and local organisations, similar to how Rodri and Steve have done in that kind of whole social prescribing element through the foundation. I think it's important that clubs work with their local organisations and providers to help them, because that connectivity then will be a lot closer, will be a lot more collaborative, and will keep things quite local, which will help. And I know Aled might jump in here, but I know that you've been doing some work behind the scenes with Sport Wales to look at how as a trust we can do more to support our clubs. So I don't know if Al, you want to jump in and elaborate a little bit more what's happening on a more of a strategic level.
Thanks, Dan, and good evening, everybody. Yeah, just great to hear the real life impact that football clubs are having, not just on the pitch, but just within their wider community. So just thanks to all the speakers for the time they've put into sharing their stories, but for all, more importantly, all the good work that goes on a day-to-day basis within those communities. It's something that we advocate always on a daily basis to Sport Wales, that I think football clubs, more than any other sport, have such a wide-ranging impact on society. Be it from a fan's perspective, the network of volunteers, either a coach or off-pitch volunteers, as we tend to call them, people's secretaries and chairpersons, that around 30,000 volunteers just in football, which would be around the same number of people that certain sports have in terms of participants. So the benefits to that individual, the impact that individual's having on the club, and as a result on the wider community, providing those opportunities is so significant. And I think the next phase for us is to provide even greater support to clubs to be able to deliver an even better service to their community. But also, how can we share the great work that's already going on the biggest possible stage, so we can raise awareness of what's achievable? And I put it in the chat. I think that's the key, is actually the potential is endless. I think it's the mindset and it's the approach. And Ammanford is a great example, along with the other two that we've had this evening in Clarbeston and RTBs, that I think it's a mindset approach. And if you want to engage with the community and address local challenges and local needs, it is achievable. But learning from the journey that these clubs have gone through can only help others to develop that mindset, or to learn about what's possible. And I think what we're doing with Sport Wales is to try and learn around what Sport Wales can do to help that to happen across sports. And we mentioned the opportunities that Ammanford have around the sporting hub at their site, and how they can work better together, but also Sport Wales in terms of investment into the volunteer development and facilities to meet those community needs, to ensure that clubs can play an even greater part in society.
Was there any other questions in the chat, Russell or Tim, that we can answer?
I think it's just David's making the point again, and I do agree with him. We somehow just don't seem to see these case studies, you know. I've been with the trust now a good few years, and this is the first time I've heard of this really, really exciting stuff. And I'm just wondering, you know, again, whether our focus is too much about players and coaches and not enough about the community. But it is a communication, as we see on in Ebbw Vale, communicating with the local community, and they will come and help you out again. So I'd just like to say thanks very much to all of you. It's been fascinating.
Let's not keep anybody any longer. I've just sort of publicly pondered whether we, in contrast to what we're going to do with the other recordings this week, whether we can maybe just make this one available publicly, because it seems to be far too inspiring and far too important as well to put it behind a private link, as some of the other clips will be, the other recordings will be, certainly for the time being anyway, for a short term. So yeah, maybe we can have a chat after this about, you know, what that looks like and how else we can publicize those, because you know, I agree, you know, case studies are you know, they can be incredibly motivating and inspiring to people, not least because people are hearing it from their peers. So I don't know, RTB Ebw Vale, one corner Wales, Clarbeston Road in another corner, unless they get drawn in the cup perhaps, are unlikely to ever clash on the field. But in this sort of forum via a case study, they can hear from their peers and they can fully appreciate and recognise the kind of the commonalities then that the clubs find themselves in. And I think as well, you know, I'm sure Tim will back me up on this. I think it's one of the founding kind of ethoses and motivations behind doing this week, is that there's a massive amount out there being done that's effective, that's empowering, that's changing lives. But the people doing that tend to be focused on the doing it, and eyes are down, and this is a polite criticism, it's a constructive criticism. It's for the others then to see what they can do to help pull that together and share that learning and so on. So yeah, that's that in a bit of a nutshell, if you like, that's what one of the motivations behind all of this was. So unless there's anything else from anybody else, we'll wish you and bid you noswaith dda, good evening, and gofiad gyflym am y bore, fory ydi diwrnod Wrexham. Wrexham Day is tomorrow, and we start with an interview with Spencer Vignes, who wrote the biography of Lee Richmond Roos, one of the first sort of superstars of the British game at the turn of the 20th century. Billy Meredith tends to be on most people's radar, but at the same time, Lee Richmond Roos was a bit of a superstar as well, and leading quite an exciting life off the field as well, I can tell you. Sadly lost his life on the Battle of the Somme, and a huge amount of campaigning over 80 years later to get him recognised for that. Spence was part of that, and that'll be part of tomorrow. Absolutely fascinating. We then get a little bit cultural with some poetry, some music as well. Eva Rose, also from Wrexham, will be speaking and being interviewed and reciting some of her poetry, supported by Llenyddiaeth Cymru, Llenyddiaeth Cymru Literature Wales tomorrow with that session. There's a bit more going on in that one. And then we're talking heritage, which has generated a huge amount of chatter today online, around or on social media around heritage of the game, how we can do more to protect it. Again, riffing on this thing around what can we do for ourselves. We've got Nick Jones, who is the officer taking forward the National Football Museum in Wrexham, and we've got some other sport and heritage related content as well. All again that is inviting people to get involved and help out with you know, protecting and preserving the rich heritage of the game. So yeah, diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd. Thank you very much to you all, and gwelwch chi fory, hopefully. See you tomorrow.